You stand at the edge of a vast, quiet ocean, feeling the universe breathe beside you. The night is calm, and space seems still, yet something gentle pulls everything wider. You sense dark energy not as a force, but as a presence you feel before you understand. Confusion feels safe here, curiosity feels welcome, and nothing asks you to hurry. The tide is already moving, softly, patiently, without sound. You begin by noticing your breath. It arrives. It leaves. You stand at the shore of a quiet universe, feet resting on cool, patient sand, while a warm night air drifts slowly past your skin. Above you, the sky stretches wide and deep, a soft darkness sprinkled with distant light, humming faintly like a room that never quite falls silent. You are not small here. You are held. The ocean before you does not rush, and neither do you. You listen. Space seems to breathe. The waves move in long, unbroken lines, folding toward the shore and sliding back again, over and over, without urgency or effort. Each wave feels familiar, like a thought you have had many times and never needed to finish. You let your shoulders soften. You let your jaw rest. Somewhere far beyond the water, galaxies drift, though from here everything appears still, calm, settled into place. And yet, something is happening. You are told gently that the universe is expanding, not exploding, not tearing itself apart. Expanding, the way a deep breath slowly fills the chest, or the way warmth spreads through your hands when you cup them together. It is a quiet motion, so smooth you might miss it if you blink too quickly. The shoreline looks the same. The stars remain where you left them. But the ocean is widening all the same. You smile a little at this. Of course it is. Science often begins this way, not with certainty, but with a feeling that something does not quite rest where you expected it to. Long ago, careful observers noticed that distant lights seemed to drift away, as if carried by a tide too slow to feel beneath the feet. They do not panic. They do not shout. They simply listen longer. You are doing the same now. The idea of dark energy arrives without knocking. It does not introduce itself loudly. It does not demand a definition. It sits beside you like a presence, like the sound of waves continuing even when you stop paying attention. Dark energy is not something you see. It is something you sense, the way you sense the ocean pulling gently at the moonlit surface, hour after hour. You breathe in. The horizon widens. You breathe out. Understanding does not need to arrive yet. Here, confusion is not a problem to solve. It is a soft blanket around the shoulders. You are allowed not to know. You are allowed to feel curious without needing answers lined up neatly in a row. The universe does not rush you, and neither does this story. Even scientists, with all their careful listening, begin by admitting they are standing on the shore, too. There is a small comfort in that, and a quiet humor. After all, when something mysterious moves the entire cosmos, it would be strange if it felt obvious. You imagine the universe smiling faintly at our efforts, the way the ocean smiles when someone tries to measure a wave with their hands. Not unkind, just patient. You feel a gentle amusement rise and fade, like a wave that never breaks. The night remains calm. Dark energy, as it is called, is less like a storm and more like a tide that never announces itself. It does not crash. It does not roar. It simply carries everything outward, evenly, endlessly, as if the universe itself has decided to stretch after a long rest. You do not need equations to feel this. You only need the image of water moving without effort. Your toes sink slightly into the sand. You are grounded. The science, when spoken softly, says this: space itself is growing. The distances between galaxies lengthen, not because they are racing away, but because the ocean between them slowly expands. Dark energy is the name given to whatever encourages that gentle widening. It is a placeholder, a lantern held up in the dark, not an answer carved in stone. And that is enough for now. You listen to the waves again, their rhythm steady, almost hypnotic. Each one arrives. Each one leaves. The universe does the same, moment by moment, stretching just a little farther than before. You feel no threat in this, only motion, only continuation. The tide does not erase the shore. It reshapes it slowly, kindly, over time. You remain safe here. You remain present. Somewhere behind you, the land rests. Somewhere ahead, the ocean deepens. And somewhere beyond both, the universe continues its quiet expansion, guided by a tide you are only beginning to notice. You do not need to follow it yet. You only need to feel its pull, soft and constant, like a hand resting lightly at your back. As the waves continue their patient rhythm, you drift closer to the waterline, where the next idea waits, already moving toward you, already part of the tide. You stand where you left yourself, at the waterline, toes now brushing the edge of the cosmic ocean. The sand beneath you is darker here, cooler, packed smooth by countless returning waves. The night feels deeper than before, and the stars seem just slightly farther apart, though nothing has moved in any way you can point to. You breathe in gently. The horizon widens. You breathe out slowly. The moment settles. At first, you think the distance is only imagination. The sky looks the same as it always has, calm and scattered with light, familiar in its vastness. But as you linger, as you let your attention soften instead of sharpen, you sense a subtle change. The lights out there, the faint glow of faraway galaxies, appear to drift, the way boats drift when tied loosely at dock. Not racing, just easing away. Scientists notice this same feeling long before they fully understand it. They watch patiently year after year, and see that distant galaxies seem to move farther and farther apart. Not because they are trying to escape, but because the ocean between them slowly grows. You imagine marking a point on the water and returning later, only to find it farther away without ever seeing it move. This is the first hint of the hidden tide. It does not behave like anything urgent or violent. There is no sense of tearing or strain. Instead, there is stretching, smooth, and even like fabric warming and relaxing in the sun. The universe is not breaking. It is breathing outward, gently, continuously, without pause or effort. You feel strangely reassured by this. Gentle things can still be powerful. As you listen, the ocean beside you keeps its rhythm, wave after wave arriving with the same soft sound, leaving with the same quiet retreat. The tide does not announce itself, yet its effect is everywhere. You do not need to see the moon to know it is there. In the same way, you do not need to see dark energy to feel what it does. You smile at the thought. Invisible does not mean absent. There is a small, almost playful realization that comes with this understanding. The universe, vast and ancient, seems to prefer subtlety. Instead of grand gestures, it leans toward patience. Instead of shouting its secrets, it lets them drift into awareness slowly, like a tide discovered only after wet footprints appear higher on the shore. You imagine early astronomers puzzling over this, scratching their heads, adjusting instruments, checking their notes twice. Somewhere, someone probably mutters that the universe is being a little unfair. You find that thought comforting. Even careful listeners can be surprised. Especially careful listeners. Your shoulders soften again. You are allowed to take your time. The idea of expansion settles in your mind like a warm blanket. Space itself stretches, carrying galaxies with it, not pushing them, not pulling them through effort, but letting distance gently grow. It is less like running and more like drifting on calm water, arms open, eyes half closed. Dark energy remains unnamed in your thoughts for now. It is simply the reason the tide exists, the quiet encouragement behind the motion. You do not need to define it yet. You only need to notice its effect, the way you notice warmth spreading through your hands before you think about fire. You inhale again, slow and easy. The night feels wider. You exhale, long and soft. Understanding settles loosely. There is comfort in realizing that discovery often arrives this way. Not with alarms, but with listening. Not with urgency, but with patience. The universe does not rush its own story, and it does not ask you to rush either. You are simply standing here, noticing what moves when nothing seems to. The ocean continues beside you, its surface dark and faintly silvered by distant light. Each wave looks the same, yet each one arrives slightly farther up the shore. The change is so gradual it feels almost imagined, until you trust it enough to let it be real. You trust it now. That feels enough. Somewhere beyond the horizon, galaxies continue their slow separation, carried by a tide that does not yet explain itself. You do not strain to see it. You do not chase it. You let it exist, the way you let your breath exist, steady and unforced. The night deepens, and the stars begin to feel farther apart, as if space itself is gently making room for what comes next. You remain at the water's edge, exactly where you were, though the night feels slightly different now. The ocean breathes beside you, steady and untroubled, and the sand beneath your feet holds your weight without question. You notice this holding. You notice how natural it feels to be supported, to be kept in place. Gravity is very good at this. It has always been reliable. From the moment you were small, gravity teaches you what to expect. Things fall. Feet return to the ground. The world feels anchored, dependable, quietly firm beneath every step. Even now, as you stand at the edge of the cosmic ocean, you trust gravity without thinking about it. It holds you here. It keeps the stars gathered into glowing islands of light. For a long time, scientists trust it the same way. Gravity explains why planets circle stars, why galaxies gather into vast, luminous shapes, why the universe feels structured instead of scattered. It is the great gatherer, the force that pulls things together, the reason the ocean has a shore at all. You imagine it like a pair of gentle hands, always guiding, always steady. You breathe in slowly. The ground remains. You breathe out. Nothing falls away. And yet, as you listen more closely, you sense that gravity's familiar story may not be the only one unfolding. Out there, beyond the waterline, galaxies continue their quiet drifting apart. Not quickly, not dramatically, just enough to notice if you are patient. Gravity alone would prefer them to slow, to pause, to lean back toward one another. But they do not. They keep easing outward. This is not a failure of gravity. It is simply a sign that something else is sharing the stage. You feel no conflict in this idea, no tension, only balance shifting slightly, like the moment you lean back into warm water and feel it hold you differently than the ground ever did. The universe feels less like a clenched hand now, more like an open palm. Scientists describe this gently, carefully, without alarm. They realize that gravity still does its work beautifully, shaping stars and galaxies, holding worlds together, keeping you safely on the shore. But alongside it, something encourages release. Something allows space itself to stretch, to loosen, to soften its grip. You imagine gravity as the shoreline, dark energy as the tide. They do not fight. They coexist. The tide does not erase the shore. It moves with it, reshaping slowly, patiently, over long stretches of time. Gravity gathers. Dark energy spreads. Together, they create a universe that can form structure without freezing into stillness, that can expand without tearing itself apart. You find this unexpectedly comforting. Balance does not require struggle. As the waves slide in and out beside you, you feel the rhythm settle deeper into your body. Long wave. Short pause. Long wave again. The ocean teaches you that movement does not always mean loss. Sometimes it means breathing. Sometimes it means letting go just enough to remain alive. You smile faintly at the thought that the universe, too, is learning to release. After holding itself together for so long, it allows a gentle widening, a slow exhale that never quite finishes. There is something deeply human in that, something quietly reassuring. Even gravity, it seems, does not cling forever. You feel no fear at this realization. You are not being pulled away. You are not drifting into darkness. You are standing exactly where you belong, supported by sand, air, and breath. The tide moves beyond you, carrying galaxies, not people. Carrying space itself, not the ground beneath your feet. You remain safe on shore. Letting go does not mean falling. The scientific idea settles softly now. Gravity explains attraction. Dark energy explains expansion. Neither cancels the other. They are parts of a larger story, one that unfolds slowly enough for curiosity to keep pace. You do not need equations to feel this truth. You only need the image of waves moving alongside solid land. You inhale again. Your chest rises. You exhale. Your weight stays. There is a quiet, almost gentle humor in imagining gravity watching this expansion happen, still doing its job faithfully, even as the universe stretches around it. Like a friend who keeps holding the door, even when the room grows larger than expected. Dependable, unbothered, calm. The ocean's surface begins to smooth now, reflecting faint starlight in long, unbroken lines. The waves soften. The motion remains, but it feels quieter, more reflective, as if the universe itself is pausing to consider what it has just realized. You stand with it, unhurried, breathing easily, while the balance between holding and releasing continues its patient dance, opening the way toward whatever understanding waits beneath the starlit surface. The ocean remains calm beside you, its surface smooth now, faint starlight stretching across it like quiet breath made visible. You have not moved far, yet something in you feels more settled, as if standing here longer has allowed the universe to adjust around your presence. The waves still arrive, they still retreat, and the tide continues to pull, unseen and patient. You take a slow breath in, as if naming something softly. You let a longer breath out, releasing the need to define it fully. At this point, you notice the words forming in your mind. The labels, the names humans use when they reach the edge of understanding and pause there, listening. Dark energy. The phrase feels heavy at first, but as you hold it gently, you realize it is lighter than it sounds. It is not a thing you can point to. It is a sound we make when we admit something is happening and we do not yet know why. Names often work this way. They mark the shoreline. In science, a name is not always an answer. Sometimes it is a placeholder, a lantern hung in the dark so you know where the mystery begins. Dark energy is such a lantern. It does not explain the tide. It simply illuminates the fact that there is one. You feel a quiet respect for that honesty. The universe does not seem offended by this. Keeps moving. You imagine the moment the name first appears, spoken gently, almost cautiously. Scientists do not shout it. They do not carve it into stone. They offer it softly, aware that the words may change later. The way constellations shift as understanding deepens. You smile at the thought that even in serious science, there is room for provisional language. There is even room for humility. Dark energy is not dark because it is evil or hidden on purpose. It is dark in the same way deep water is dark at night. Not threatening, just beyond the reach of immediate sight. You would not accuse the ocean of secrecy because you cannot see its depths. You simply accept that light has limits. You feel your shoulders drop. Mystery feels lighter now. The tide beneath the waves does not care what you call it. It moves whether named or not, steady and unconcerned with language. The name exists for you, not for the universe. It gives you a way to speak calmly about what you sense, a way to share curiosity without pretending to certainty. This is one of the quieter strengths of science. It allows not knowing. You stand with that thought for a while, listening to the faint hum of the night, the distant echo of waves folding into themselves. Somewhere above you, clouds begin to drift slowly across the moon, softening its light. The ocean darkens slightly, not disappearing, just changing tone, like a voice lowering at the end of a sentence. Dark energy remains beneath the surface, unnamed by the water itself. You find comfort in realizing that names can evolve. Long ago, gravity itself was once only a feeling, an observation without explanation. The universe did not mind waiting while language caught up. It waited then. It waits now. You feel no pressure to rush understanding forward. You inhale gently again. The air feels cool and steady. You exhale slowly. The need for answers loosens. There is a small, gentle humor in imagining the universe watching humans name things. First this, then that, adjusting, revising, refining. The tide keeps pulling while the labels shuffle quietly along the shore. It is not mocking. It is simply patient, like an old ocean that has seen many names come and go. You realize that dark energy, as a phrase, is less important than the posture behind it. The willingness to say, something is happening, and we are listening. That posture feels calm, respectful, almost reverent. You recognize it as the same posture you hold now, standing quietly, watching waves arrive without needing to count them. Language becomes a lantern, not a cage. The scientific idea settles gently in your thoughts. Dark energy is the name we give to the observed expansion of space, to the tide that carries galaxies outward. It does not tell us what the tide is made of. It does not claim ownership over the mystery. It simply keeps the conversation open. You like that? Open feels safe. The clouds continue their slow drift, dimming certainty without erasing wonder. The moon still glows behind them, softened but present, just as understanding often is. You do not feel lost in this dimness. You feel sheltered, wrapped in a quieter light. The ocean remains where it is. The tide continues to move. You stand comfortably with the unnamed, with the softly named, with the idea that not all truths arrive fully formed. Some remain fluid, like water, shaping themselves over time. You let that thought settle into your body, into your breathing, into the gentle stillness of the night. And as the clouds slide farther across the moon, dimming certainty just enough to invite curiosity, you sense the tide still pulling, unchanged by words, guiding you calmly toward whatever understanding waits beyond the next gentle wave. You feel the water now, not rushing, not cold. The ocean reaches your ankles with a calm familiarity, cool but gentle, like it has always known you would arrive here eventually. The sand beneath your feet smooths itself with each passing wave, reshaped again and again without complaint. Above you, the sky remains wide and quiet, stars resting in their places like lights left on for comfort rather than display. You breathe in slowly. The tide does not hurry. You breathe out. Neither do you. As you stand here, the universe feels steady in a new way. Not frozen, not rigid, simply consistent. You begin to explore the idea that dark energy might not change at all, that the tide guiding expansion could be constant, unvarying, endlessly patient. This thought does not feel dull. It feels soothing, like a heartbeat that never skips. A constant tide never surprises you. It reassures you. In this view, the universe expands because it always has, because the encouragement to stretch never weakens and never grows stronger. Space itself responds evenly, the way water responds to the moon without drama or hesitation. There is comfort in imagining such reliability woven into the fabric of everything. You imagine the tide at night, always returning. Scientists sometimes describe this steadiness as a background presence, something built into the universe itself. Not an added push, not a sudden change, just a quiet, ever-present pull that asks space to keep opening, gently, endlessly. You do not need to picture mechanisms or formulas. You only need the feeling of water moving with perfect patience. The ocean beside you does not ask why it flows. It simply does. This constancy feels deeply restful. In a world where so much shifts and changes, the idea of something that never tires feels almost kind. Dark energy, in this sense, becomes less mysterious and more like a companion that walks at the same pace forever, neither rushing ahead nor falling behind. You notice how your body responds to this thought. Your shoulders soften. Your breath deepens. There is a small, quiet humor in realizing how comforting predictability can be. Once, you might have thought the universe should be dramatic, full of sudden turns and surprises. But standing here, you feel grateful that it prefers subtlety. The tide does not need to reinvent itself each night. It shows up, does its work, and leaves again. Reliable, uncomplaining. The scientific idea settles in gently. If dark energy remains constant, then the expansion of the universe follows a smooth, even path. No sudden changes, no sharp edges. Just a long, slow unfolding, like a story told at the same calm pace from beginning to end. You imagine galaxies carried outward without resistance, as if floating on water that never grows rough. You feel held by this image. Consistency feels like safety. The water brushes against your skin now, cool and calm, wrapping lightly around your ankles. It does not pull you forward. It does not push you back. It simply exists, steady and present, like the quiet hum of a distant machine that has been running smoothly for longer than anyone remembers. You trust it without thinking. Trust comes easily here. In this steady tide universe, gravity continues its work, gathering stars and shaping galaxies, while dark energy provides the gentle background motion that keeps everything from standing still. There is no struggle between them, no competition, just roles played patiently over and over without fatigue. You find that comforting. Things can cooperate quietly. The ocean reflects the sky in long, shimmering lines. Each wave looks nearly identical to the last, yet you do not grow bored watching them. Repetition becomes hypnotic, soothing. The mind rests when it knows what comes next. The universe, it seems, understands this deeply. You smile faintly, amused by the idea that the cosmos itself values routine. The same tide, the same pull, night after night, age after age. If the universe can commit to such steadiness, perhaps it is not afraid of sameness at all. Perhaps sameness is strength. You breathe in again. The water remains calm. You breathe out. The tide does not change. Dark energy, as a constant presence, becomes less of a puzzle and more of a background truth. Like the warmth of the sun or the steadiness of the ground, it does not demand attention. It simply supports everything quietly. You realize that many of the most important things in your life work the same way. You do not notice them until you stop. Then you miss them immediately. The universe continues expanding, carried by this tireless tide. Galaxies drift farther apart, not because anything pushes them urgently, but because the space between them keeps growing at the same calm pace. There is no deadline, no finish line, just continuation. You feel yourself floating now, imagination lifting you gently off the shore, supported by water that never changes its mind. You are not swimming. You are resting. The tide holds you without effort, without demand. The water is cool but calm against your skin. You feel supported. This vision of constancy wraps around you like a familiar blanket. It suggests that the universe does not need to surprise itself to remain alive. It only needs to remain true to its own rhythm. Dark energy, in this sense, becomes a promise kept quietly moment after moment. You trust this promise. It feels old and reliable. Far out across the water, the tide continues its endless work, smooth and unwavering. Yet as you gaze toward the horizon, you sense a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, as if beneath the steady surface, something more complex might be stirring. Far out, the tide begins to feel less uniform. You remain at the water's edge, where the cool sand meets the ocean's gentle reach. The tide has carried you further along the shore than you realize, though your feet barely notice. The waves continue their rhythm, arriving and retreating with familiar patience. Yet now you feel the tide slightly different beneath you, as if the water itself is moving with a whisper you had not noticed before. Breathe in. The water shifts gently. Breathe out. Your chest rises and falls. You sense the universe as more than a rigid, constant pattern. The tide may change, very slowly, almost imperceptibly, but the motion beneath the surface, the subtle currents that tug just slightly differently each moment, reminds you that even what feels steady can evolve. The ocean is alive. It responds. It adapts. It grows. You imagine the water deep below, invisible to the eye, carrying movement that does not disturb the surface too much, but that shapes the waves above. The stars above you may not notice it, yet the galaxies feel its gentle guidance over eons. You feel your shoulders soften as you realize this is not threatening. You are not being tossed by the tide. You are floating alongside it. Sometimes change is just movement. Sometimes movement is just change. Scientists consider the same possibility. Dark energy might not be constant at all. Perhaps it drifts subtly, altering the expansion rate of space ever so slightly, like a hidden current beneath the surface. The idea does not alarm you when framed this way. It becomes a thought to observe, a quiet unfolding, a gentle rhythm to match your own breath. The ocean, in this metaphor, becomes more than a surface to watch. It is layers, textures, hidden depths that guide the visible waves. So too is the universe more than what we see. Beneath the apparent calm, unseen forces move, shaping motion without shouting. They act quietly, patiently, without urgency. You breathe in again. You feel the current beneath your feet. You breathe out. You float without trying. There is a small, soft amusement in realizing how intricate this tide is. It is patient, yes, but not entirely uniform. It shifts. It evolves. It carries the universe in subtle ways, allowing galaxies, stars, and perhaps even ideas to drift slowly along paths that are never exactly the same twice. There is artistry here. There is patience. There is something quietly humorous in its perfection, always changing, yet always constant enough to trust. You lean back slightly, imagining yourself floating just above the sand. The water supports you without fuss. The waves arrive in measured rhythm, yet below, the hidden currents flow with gentle variety. You feel a sense of trust forming. You do not need to control the tide. You do not need to predict it. You only need to notice, to rest in its presence. Change is not chaos. It is another layer of calm. The scientific idea settles softly into your thoughts. Dark energy might evolve, slowly altering the cosmic expansion, subtly shaping the distances between galaxies. But this evolution is not violent. It is barely perceptible, like a breeze that shifts the reflection of the stars on the water, just enough to remind you that nothing, not even constancy itself, is ever truly frozen. You inhale. You sense the flow beneath. You exhale. You feel lifted, supported, aligned. The ocean mirrors your breath. The surface appears smooth, but you know intuitively that it is alive, complex, layered. You are part of this rhythm now, not controlling it, not worrying about it, simply floating alongside, noticing, feeling, resting. There is trust here, a deep calm in witnessing subtle change while remaining safe. You smile faintly, acknowledging the universe's gentle humor. Even as the tide evolves, it does not abandon the shore. It does not overturn the sand or drag you away. It moves quietly, slowly, like a careful friend who knows the path better than you, yet walks at your pace. You breathe in again. The water beneath you shifts imperceptibly. You breathe out. Your body rises slightly with the gentle motion. The moonlight glimmers softly on the waves, illuminating the tiny ripples that mark hidden currents. Even in change, the scene remains beautiful. Even in evolution, the rhythm remains comforting. The tide moves steadily and gently, carrying everything with it, yet hinting that beneath the calm surface, new patterns wait to be discovered. The moon shifts, altering the water's quiet pull. You stand in the water now, cool and soft around your ankles, letting the tide carry you lightly. The surface glimmers with moonlight, each wave catching a fragment of silver and scattering it gently across the shore. But your attention drifts below. You sense currents, layers moving differently, ripples overlapping in patterns too delicate to track. You do not need to understand them fully. You only need to notice, to feel the rhythm beneath the calm. Breathe in. The water hums beneath your skin. Breathe out. You float, aware of hidden motion. Dark energy begins to feel less like a single, constant tide and more like an ocean filled with textures. Invisible fields ripple quietly, shaping the motion of galaxies, the expansion of space, the very flow of the universe. You imagine these fields as threads in a vast, unseen fabric, tugging and stretching, influencing without insistence. They do not shout. They whisper. They weave. You smile faintly, imagining galaxies drifting as if on gentle waves within gentle waves. It is a subtle joke of the cosmos, massive, luminous islands carried along by something you cannot touch, something you can only sense. You are not small in this thought. You are included. You are part of the texture, drifting along with awareness, curiosity, and calm. Even gravity seems to respect these silent motions, gathering stars while the fields underneath encourage expansion, subtle, nearly imperceptible. Together, the forces balance like dancers moving in near silence, barely disturbing the surface, yet shaping everything beneath. You feel as if you are floating not just on water, but on understanding itself, soft, layered, evolving. The ocean hums a low, continuous note beneath the moonlight. The sound is almost musical, almost human, almost like a distant voice reminding you that all of this motion is natural, expected, and safe. The tide does not rage. The universe does not demand. Movement is gentle, layered, infinite, patient. You can follow it with your eyes, with your thoughts, or simply with your breath. A small, playful thought comes to mind. If the universe were sentient, perhaps it enjoys letting humans think they can measure the tide while quietly guiding every ripple. You smile at the idea. Even in humor, the universe is patient. Even in play, it is subtle. The fields ripple beneath the calm, and you notice them, not with anxiety, but with wonder. You breathe in slowly. The currents carry you. You breathe out deeply. The water supports you. Each ripple seems to hold a story. Not numbers, not equations, just motion and the quiet logic of space expanding, carrying galaxies farther apart. Sensation replaces calculation here. You feel the rhythm in your chest, in the soles of your feet, in the gentle sway of the water around you. The universe is speaking in textures, in soft waves, in invisible motions that you can only sense if you slow enough to notice. The tide begins to deepen. The water grows warmer, more reflective, as though inviting you to lean back, to float, to drift among the layers. You do not resist. You do not measure. You simply rest, letting the universe carry you along, noticing subtle patterns, breathing with quiet awareness, imagining unseen fields stretching infinitely beneath the surface. You inhale again. A faint ripple moves beneath your feet. You exhale. You rise slightly, lifted by unseen currents. Even as you float, you feel included in this vast texture, part of the gentle motion of space itself. The tide, constant yet evolving, textured yet soft, becomes more than a scientific idea. It becomes a companion, a guide, a rhythm that matches your own breath, your own awareness, your own stillness. The water carries you farther out, the surface catching faint glimmers of light, and yet the depth grows, the currents become more layered. You sense that understanding here is not about seeing everything at once. It is about listening, feeling, being aware of movement that is not loud, motion that is patient, subtle, intimate. You are floating. You are noticing. You are safe. The water grows warmer, deeper, more reflective. The tide moves beneath you, ripple upon ripple, field upon field, and you realize that the universe is more alive than you imagined. And as you drift in that realization, you feel a gentle pull toward the horizon, toward the next mystery the tide carries quietly, without hurry, without demand. You remain floating, ankles and calves immersed in the quiet tide. The water holds you steadily, the surface shimmering faintly under the moon, like silver dust scattered in slow motion. Your gaze rises to the stars. They twinkle and hum, distant lights that have traveled vast stretches of space to reach you. But even the brightest of them cannot tell you the full story. The universe holds more than any instrument can grasp. Breathe in slowly. The night hums around you. Breathe out gently. You are supported. For centuries, humans have tried to listen. They point telescopes toward the heavens, stretching lenses and mirrors toward light that has journeyed billions of years. They measure carefully, taking note of every hint, every shift, every faint tug on the cosmic fabric. But the tide, the hidden motion beneath the waves, remains largely invisible, slipping quietly past their instruments. It is patient. It does not hurry. It does not reveal itself all at once. You imagine scientists leaning over telescopes, squinting at charts, scratching notes in soft candlelight. Perhaps one sighs, perhaps another hums a tune to stay awake. You imagine them noticing, ever so subtly, the galaxies moving apart. They do not panic. They do not insist on certainty. They simply observe, listen, and let the tide guide them toward understanding, a little at a time. Even the sharpest instruments cannot capture everything. And that is okay. The unseen currents, the subtle variations, the fields beneath the surface, these are not errors. They are reminders that knowing is a process. Understanding unfolds slowly, like the tide itself. You feel the same rhythm in your chest, the slow pulsing of breath matching the ocean. Not knowing is not failure. It is a resting place. It is a soft pause between waves. You exhale. You let the thought settle. You notice the stars begin to blur slightly, as if viewed through gentle mist. The sharp edges soften. The universe does not demand that you resolve it. You do not need to measure every ripple or assign a number to every motion. You only need to notice, to breathe, to drift alongside the tide and allow curiosity to guide you. There is a quiet, playful humor in the limits of your instruments. The universe is vast, more complex than any lens can capture, yet it continues its silent work regardless. You imagine it chuckling softly, like an old friend who has seen every attempt to count the grains of sand and waits patiently, knowing there is more than counting can ever reveal. You inhale again. You feel the tide beneath your feet. You exhale. The water supports you still. The rhythm of expansion continues, steady but subtle, like a pulse felt through the very fabric of space. Even as you drift, you are aware of the unseen. Fields ripple beneath the waves. The tide moves in patterns that instruments may never fully grasp, carrying galaxies outward, carrying thought and breath outward, carrying understanding forward slowly, patiently. You sense the patient kindness of the universe. It does not demand. It does not scold. It does not rush. The water remains cool and comforting, wrapping your ankles and calves in gentle pressure. You notice how the tide interacts with the sand, soft, measured, infinitely patient. Each wave arrives in its own time, carrying just enough information to notice, just enough to trust. Not knowing feels safe here. Not knowing becomes a rhythm, a pulse to which you can align your own breath. The stars blur gently above. You feel the weight of their light. You feel the distance between them. You feel the quiet patience that has carried them for eons. You inhale. You listen. You exhale. You trust. The universe continues, steady and unhurried. And somewhere beyond the horizon, beyond the surface ripples you can feel, the tide moves, carrying gentle currents of dark energy onward, guiding you softly toward the next revelation, the next quiet discovery waiting just beyond the edge of what you can measure. The tide laps softly around your ankles, familiar and steady, yet you notice that each wave carries a subtle difference. Nothing alarming, nothing urgent, just slight variations that suggest the ocean might not be entirely as you imagined. You realize that the maps humans draw, charts, equations, models, are attempts to hold something vast and fluid. And perhaps, sometimes, the map is only partially true. Breathe in. The water shifts softly beneath your feet. Breathe out. You drift with awareness, not worry. You imagine the early astronomers, scribbling notes, comparing observations, their eyes tracing patterns that almost, but not quite, match reality. The galaxies behave as expected in some ways, and yet, in others, they hint at something different. The universe does not bend to fit assumptions. It is patient, like a teacher guiding a student without needing to correct them harshly. The tide continues to pull, regardless of your map. Perhaps the map is wrong. Perhaps it is only a guide. The thought does not unsettle you. It feels curious, like noticing a new path along a familiar trail. Not everything must fit neatly. Dark energy may not behave precisely as current models predict. There may be variations, subtleties, ripples that escape even the most careful measurements. This is not failure. It is refinement, an invitation to notice more deeply, to listen more carefully. The ocean carries the thought gently. The waves fold in quiet, familiar rhythm. You imagine hidden shores beyond your vision, shaping the tide in ways you cannot see. Galaxies move as they will, the cosmic ocean flowing along contours invisible from this vantage. Yet the motion is soft, patient. You feel included in this unfolding, not because you can control it, but because you are paying attention, aligning your breath, your mind, your curiosity with the quiet rhythm of the universe. Inhale. Curiosity flows in like tide water. Exhale. Certainty drifts away, leaving space for wonder. There is a gentle humor in imagining that humans often insist on exactness, even when the cosmos prefers subtlety. The universe might be quietly smiling at every assumption made, every prediction, every model drawn with care. It does not mind errors. It does not scold. It continues, unhurried, unperturbed, allowing the tide to move as it will. You feel the sand shift beneath your feet with each incoming wave, soft and measured. The shoreline bends beyond your sight, suggesting shapes and currents you cannot yet trace. You are safe here. You are steady. And you are invited to notice, to float, to wonder, without the weight of needing perfect maps or complete answers. The tide does not demand certainty. It only asks attention, gentle and patient. The scientific idea settles around you like a soft cloak. Perhaps our measurements reflect our assumptions. Perhaps our models are only glimpses, shadows cast on the water's surface. And yet, you feel no frustration, no urgency. You are part of this exploration simply by being present, observing, breathing, aligning with the motion of the cosmos. You inhale again. The water responds beneath your ankles. You exhale. The horizon stretches, curving beyond sight. And as the shoreline bends quietly in the distance, you sense the tide continuing its patient pull, carrying you gently forward, inviting you to participate in the expansion. Not as an observer alone, but as part of the ocean itself, drifting toward a horizon that is always quietly, patiently growing. You notice the tide brushing gently higher now, embracing your calves and knees with a soft insistence that is neither cold nor demanding. The ocean has grown familiar. Its rhythm, once something observed from the shore, now feels like a breath you can step into. You do not merely watch the universe expand. You are part of it. The water, the stars, the subtle pull of dark energy. They all include you, quietly, without announcement. Breathe in. The universe moves with you. Breathe out. You rise slightly, carried gently. Expansion is no longer a distant concept. It is something that surrounds you, passes through you, and carries you along without effort. You feel your own body in rhythm with the ocean, a pulse matching the steady, patient growth of space itself. The galaxies you imagined drifting apart are no longer far away. They are reflections of the same motion that moves your toes in the sand, the same motion that lifts the water around your legs. You are inside the tide now, not apart from it. The thought brings warmth to your chest. There is no need for diagrams or labels here. The universe does not ask for your understanding. It asks only that you notice, that you breathe, that you feel yourself part of something larger, gentle, endlessly patient. You exhale slowly, letting the sensation sink into every limb. You are carried. You are safe. You are included. The ocean continues to ripple gently, each wave arriving with the softest sound, each retreat a quiet whisper. The tide carries not just water, but galaxies, ideas, understanding, curiosity. You are included in the flow not as an observer, but as a participant. Even your thoughts, drifting lightly like bubbles beneath the surface, move with the current, guided by the same patient rhythm that stretches space itself. A small smile plays across your lips. Even existence participates in this expansion. The warmth of belonging spreads slowly. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the light that glimmers across the water. The cosmic ocean is not vast and indifferent here. It is intimate. It is tactile. It is alive in subtle ways that do not require urgency, only attention. You float within it, held by the rhythm of the tide, by the quiet encouragement of dark energy, by the soft expansion of space itself. Breathe in. You feel the tide beneath and around you. Breathe out. You notice the galaxies, the stars, the unseen fields, all part of this shared movement. Curiosity is effortless now. You do not need to measure. You do not need to calculate. You do not need to map every ripple. Your awareness alone allows participation. Expansion is not something that happens to you. It is something that includes you. Your presence is a part of the cosmic current, and in that knowledge you feel calm, steady, and gently exhilarated. The tide continues. Your body aligns with its rhythm. The water softens around your ankles. The surface reflects stars like scattered silver dust. The air is warm and gentle, carrying distant sounds and faint, almost imperceptible vibrations of movement. You notice your heartbeat matching the pulse of the universe. Slow, steady, intimate. You are no longer just standing. You are floating, moving with the expansion, carried without effort, included without demand. The horizon stretches endlessly. The tide carries galaxies and thoughts alike. You are part of it. Warmth fills your chest. Your pulse slows. Your breath deepens. You feel the infinite space around you not as a void, but as a gentle embrace. The ocean, the tide, the universe. They move patiently, carrying everything along. You are carried too. You are included. You are home here in the expanding sea. The waves soften into near stillness, and as the surface quiets, you sense the next chapter waiting, a horizon that holds answers without pressing them, a gentle invitation to rest with the unanswered, while the tide continues, patient, unhurried, eternal. You step lightly onto the sand, toes sinking into the cool grains. The tide has receded slightly, leaving behind a smooth, glimmering surface that mirrors the stars above. You pause, noticing the gentle undulations of water still moving at the edge of your vision. Waves arriving quietly, retreating quietly, endlessly patient. You are back where you began, yet everything has shifted subtly. You understand more, yet still not completely. And that is perfectly enough. Breathe in. The night stretches around you. Breathe out. You settle into the shore, into stillness. You realize that dark energy does not need a definition to exist. It moves silently, shaping the universe in ways you can sense but never fully see. The horizon remains unanswered, vast and luminous, like a question whispered in silver starlight. And you rest with that. You rest with not knowing, letting your awareness soften and expand along with the cosmic tide. The ocean does not wait for understanding. It flows patiently, carrying you gently along. The stars above twinkle faintly, each one a distant reminder that light travels for eons before reaching your eyes. You feel included in this slow passage, part of the rhythm even as questions linger. There is no rush to answer, no urgency to measure, no demand to grasp. Curiosity alone suffices, soft and warm, like the tide pressing lightly against your ankles. You smile softly at the thought. The universe is patient. So can you be? The waves whisper with quiet regularity, a lullaby older than memory, carrying both galaxies and ideas, both distant suns and the gentle unfolding of your own awareness. The water glimmers under the moon, soft and reflective, like a mirror for thoughts that need no conclusion. You are resting within it. You are floating even when standing. You are supported, carried, and included. Breathe in. Feel the tide beneath your feet, beneath your mind. Breathe out. Let unanswered questions dissolve into gentle waves. The horizon stretches farther than you can see, an infinite line of possibilities, each one soft, calm, and unthreatening. The ocean continues moving. The tide never tires. Dark energy flows silently, and you are part of it. There is no pressure to resolve, no expectation to finish, no demand to know. Only the quiet motion of existence, flowing patiently, carrying everything along. Warmth rises in your chest. A slow, steady pulse matches the tide. Your breath is even, your mind gentle. The universe is vast, patient, kind. You rest here for a while, letting the rhythm settle through your body, through your thoughts, through the very air around you. You notice the small details, the cool sand, the faint hum of distant waves, the gentle silver of starlight. They remind you that the universe moves whether you watch it or not, and that is entirely okay. You inhale once more. You feel connected, calm, whole. You exhale slowly. The tide continues, the horizon stretches, the questions linger softly, and you simply rest, at peace with the unanswered. The ocean breathes, the universe breathes, and you, at last, breathe with it.